Hello and welcome to Real Recollections.
That's not how I remember it.
Where we revisit our favorite childhood entertainment and see if it holds up against our jaded adult lives.
This season we'll be rediscovering all of Disney's animated classics. Today we're covering Fantasia. Here we go!
Now we hear from our local cartoon expert with our plot in a pinch.
Roll the camera, Sam!
A musical extravaganza. There's dancing, mushrooms dance, leaves dance, hippos dance, fish dance, demons dance. In fact, if it exists, you can probably assume it danced in Fantasia. There's a colorful cast of characters, including centaurs, single-celled organisms, dinosaurs, a moving mountain, gods, and a whole Pegasus family. Most of these danced as well. It tells the story of the seasons, the origins of the earth, and what happens when Mickey doesn't want to do his chores. Oh, and there's classical music. Lots of classical music.
That was Sally with the plot in a pinch. And now we're going to move on to how we remember Fantasia. And to do this, we brought in a special guest, our brother Aaron, actually.
No, you weren't supposed to tell him that he is our brother.
It's too late now.
Oh my gosh, we can't go back.
We can't go back. It's too late.
He is still a special guest, we promised. He's all the way in Pennsylvania, which is far away from where we live.
Yeah, so we have a West Coast-ish opinion, and we have an East Coast-ish opinion.
Yeah.
Also, he's not a singer. So, I mean, he does do musical things, but
yes,
he's a electrical engineer, so we have a smart person perspective.
Yes, and then you have our perspective,
and we're and then you have the other kind of people perspective right here. And anyways, we're super happy to have you, Aaron.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Not happy to be here, but he's here. Yeah, Aaron actually, he's an instrumentalist too, because he played violin.
And one of the reasons, well, the main reason why we wanted Aaron to be on our podcast today is because this was one of his favorite shows when he was 3 or 4 years old.
Right?
That's true. And it's possible that I wouldn't have played many instruments had I not watched Fantasia. Because...
Explain.
Wait, you want me to explain?
Yeah, tell us about how you liked Fantasia as a kid.
How did it inspire you?
So, I mean, one of the things I remember, one of my early memories is of rewinding Fantasia to that first thing, the toccata and fugue, and then letting it play with the conductor. He's like, he's just like silent there. To give you a description,
Aaron is holding his arms up in the air and turning in a circle. Which he thinks you can see. I don't know.
I just thought if I did it, it might come out through my voice a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then he would start it, and they go da 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 da, and I'm like, "Mom, it was so scary." And then I rewind it and do it again. It's like, "Mom, it's so scary! Look at how scary it is." Probably, I was led to believe it was scary by my mom because she was probably like, "Ooh, that's so scary." And I was like, yeah, it's scary. Mom, it's scary. So
let's watch it again. Rewind the tape.
I want to watch it again. Well, I remember when I was a kid, I pretty much only wanted to watch three of the songs, 3 of the segments.
Yeah.
And definitely Sorcerer's Apprentice was number 1 on my list.
Yeah, obviously.
And then probably following that is the...
Nutcracker?
No.
Was it Dance of the Hours?
That doesn't make it onto the list. Nutcracker doesn't make it onto the list. Then Dance of the Hours, and then probably Night at Bald Mountain, but not the Ave Maria after.
Can I be honest? I didn't even remember that they had that part.
I also do not remember Ave Maria whatsoever.
Was it even on our tape version? I mean, it might not have been, but
we probably just stopped it.
Well, it's part of the Bald Mountain. They mashed them together.
I guess that's true, but I don't remember the Ave Maria part at all. Maybe just because they are mashed together. I just
put it in my together, mind. But I don't remember singing.
I remember it being
I don't
really
remember
boring.
hearing a singer.
Yeah.
It was a really boring
To be honest,
part.
Aaron, I remember you watching Fantasia, and I don't know if this is true, but this is what I remember. So I remember that you were watching it, and I'd be like, can we fast forward? And you'd be like, no, this is a really good part. I'm like, oh. And I have to listen through a whole bunch of them, and it was so boring. I did like the Nutcracker one when I was a kid.
I was a little
At
bit
least
of a
parts of it.
snob.
I like parts of it.
Parts of it were not, I guess, as fun, but I really like the fairies and stuff. So I think I really liked that song. I really liked Sorcerer's Apprentice, of course. That's like the first one. Although I was really scared of the sorcerer when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's scary.
Yeah, he has that really stern face. I was like, oh my gosh, he's probably going to kill Mickey when he comes back. But he doesn't. It was just very scary for me. I'm trying to remember what else. Those were the two main ones I remember, honestly. And then I remember the dinosaur one, in that I remember that it was really depressing. Yeah.
I like the flying horses.
The flying horses?
That was probably something I remember.
Yeah,
before.
as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And especially the part where the one flying horse is flying and she can't get away. She's like caught in the wind. She can't get away. And then the mom saves her and like, oh. I'm pretty sure I had like nightmares or something about that at some point.
You know what's funny? I always assumed that was a boy horse. Well, it's the black one, isn't it?
The black one, yeah.
I think if it had been pink, I was a kid, I was basic.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember enjoying Fantasia very much.
No.
And I thought maybe that opinion would change. So
the thing is, we love classical music, right?
We do. We love classical music. And so I thought now we would like it more. And so we'll get into that later. But that was how we remembered it. And now we're going to how it happened.
So Aaron, you can sit back and relax for a minute while we talk about some history about Fantasia.
Yeah. So Fantasia was kind of a dream of Walt Disney's to put on. He loved classical music, and it was almost like a film just for himself.
Yeah. Originally it wasn't like a whole production. He wasn't planning on making a whole movie. Mm-hmm. What happened was that Mickey Mouse was kind of losing popularity at the time because the animators had a lot of fun doing Donald Duck. Because Donald Duck, he's angry, nothing works out for him, and he's just like a lot of fun.
He's easy to write for.
Yeah, he has obvious flaws.
Yeah.
And so his stories make sense.
It's hard to make a story interesting for a character where everything works out for him in the end. And
Mickey's so nice, and I think they just had a hard time figuring out that dynamic. What is Mickey's faults, I guess?
Yeah.
And so Walt wanted to kind of combat this because Mickey Mouse obviously was his baby, right? It all started with a mouse. It was something he always wanted to remind everyone about. And so he decided to make a short of The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Dukas, based on the story, that original story.
Yeah.
Although originally it was supposed to be Mickey Mouse, right?
It's supposed to be Dopey.
Yeah.
And then they switched it to Mickey Mouse because of those reasons Mary just said was just talking about. So for help with the music, because this was a classical piece, he went to the best. I mean, he's Disney. He's like, I'm going to have the best. So he went and talked to the conductor, Maestro Stokowski, who at the time was a big classical music propagator, and made it a lot more
accessible.
Yeah, accessible to the people. Yeah. He was known for really crazy conducting. He was kind of a celebrity at the time.
So he got that wild hair. He was a person people would have known, not just people who liked classical music.
Exactly. The layman classical music listeners and intense classical music listeners would know him.
Yeah, I think a real sum up of Stokowski is he had this quote where he said, "The beauty and inspiration of music must not be restricted to a privileged few, but made available to every man, woman, and child." So I think that's probably one reason that he kind of got in on Fantasia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think originally they were just going to lunch. And then he talked to him about Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he was like, oh, I'd love to conduct that with you. And also, why don't we make it a whole movie with all these other things?
Yeah, he said, why don't we do like a full-length concert, like something that you would go to the symphony to watch and put it to these cartoons.
Exactly.
And they're like, great, we'll call it The Concert Feature. Worst name ever. How did we all come up with that? That's terrible.
It's a working title, right?
I guess. It was a working title. Of course, later they changed the name to Fantasia.
Which means a loose, free form of music. Which kind of makes sense because they were doing all sorts of different things from different time periods. And
yeah, there was no coherent theme musically that they were going
So you'll hear, like, some music will be titled, like, Fantasia on a theme of Paganini or whatever, you know? Where it's just a free form music. It's not as strict to the form.
Yeah. So they started working on the music, and they very quickly found that they had spent over $400,000 on the music. So now they were all in. They had to do this thing. They're like, we're doing it.
I wonder if that is just from, like, purchasing scores for the orchestra, or just, like, is that including the music and getting all of the instrumentalists together? Like,
I don't think much was spent on the scores. That's what I thought. I mean, how many people are in the orchestra? I mean, like, max probably 100, right?
I guess.
How much could a score cost, you know?
I guess that's true.
In 1940. Not $400,000.
Well, I'm just saying, they said $400,000 on music. I'm just wondering, is that incorporating, like, paying all the musicians? That's probably what it means, right?
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Plus, they spent a lot of money just on the animation itself, as always. So we were reading about it this week, and we learned that there was about 24 drawings per second for a cell of animation.
Which is close to double what it was in the past, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know enough. But yeah, so that's a lot of drawings per second, right? Mm-hmm. And for each one of those drawings to go through all of the special, you know, coloring and stenciling and softening the edges, etc., it took about 3 or 4 hours per cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in total, it would take 3 or 4 days to complete 1 second. 3 or 4 days of, like, labor to complete 1 second of the film. Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had done a lot of symphonies with... Sorry, they've done a lot of cartoons set to music before this. Disney wasn't the first.
Right.
And you've got Bugs Bunny.
All the silly symphonies,
you know, things like that. And so people were setting music to classical music before Disney, but I think that what Fantasia did that was different is that they really tried to let the music inform the animation. Yeah, so it wasn't like, oh, we're doing this cartoon, let's find a song that kind of fits it. It was more like, here's the piece of music, how can we express this, etc.
Right, yeah, they don't... And I think they did that by not necessarily telling a super clear story through each of the segments. It's more like pictures and images that make you think, that the music makes you think of as you...
Or could bring up, right?
As at least what it did for the animators, while they were listening to it.
The music was the most important. That's the main thing. Yeah. And because of that, they spent a lot of time getting it recorded in a special new way. They had a 100-piece hand-picked orchestra, and they recorded it.
So it was 100.
It was 100. You were right. And they recorded it in 1938. And they recorded it in stereophonic sound, which means they basically had tons of microphones set up all over the stage. They were trying to capture each section of the orchestra individually, as much as possible.
Like, they would have multiple microphones set up on the same section.
And they would try to even mute sections when they weren't playing so that it wouldn't pick up the other sections as much as possible. They were trying a new kind of sound.
It was basically the first attempt at surround sound.
Yeah.
And the recording style and the quality of the sound was so high that the world wouldn't catch up to this kind of recording style until 1960. So 20 years later.
20 years later. They were way ahead of time on trying to get it, because they would, use those sections and put them around you in the theater.
The theater would have to be set up with these special
speakers,
and
Yeah.
they would have to be set up in different places in the theater, which caused its own problems.
Yeah. So this was actually the first time that Disney distributed its own movie.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so because they wanted to do it this way, they're like, we need to have this sound system, etc. And their current distributor was like, that's crazy. And they were kind of right, because it cost a lot of money to put that many speakers into the theaters. So the way Disney wanted to do it, which is a really cool idea, like I kind of wish that I could have been back then and, seen, because it must have been just completely different. So they set it up with the speakers. So they had to have people come in and, send it all this stuff on the train. And only about 12 theaters did it.
Yeah.
Were able to do it. But it was supposed to be like an experience. It wasn't just going to a movie. So they didn't do it like in a several showings a day sort of thing, like normal. Instead, they made it like a theater show where you have a matinee and you have the nightly feature.
Yeah, and people would dress like they were going to the symphony or something like that. So they would dress a little nicer. It wouldn't be just we're going to the movie, grab some popcorn,
Yeah, exactly. They wanted it to be an experience. And so they not only did they have that, they had ushers, they had programs.
We ordered a program.
Yeah, it hasn't come yet, so I can't tell you what it looks like. But we looked at some pictures. They look really nice.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of told you about the production and the music.
Talks about the animation and things like that.
And so it was really a full experience. And then imagine sitting down in the theater and you hear the orchestra and sound all the way around you. That must have been really cool.
Yeah. In fact, during the last song, the Ave Maria, the singer's voice, it came from the back of the room. So a lot of the people, when they listened to it, they turned around looking for the singer.
Yeah, which just shows how good of a job they did. They thought that they were in the room with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which must have just been so fun. It must have been fun for the sound people to watch that happen.
Yeah.
But because it was so expensive, that was one reason it didn't do well. The other reason is because it really only went to 12 theaters.
12 theaters.
Where sometimes it did play for a long time.
Yeah, it actually was very successful at these theaters, but it just could not make the money to make up for the budget
cost
that they had on the movie.
It played for a full year in Los Angeles and New York, and I think somewhere else, but those are the two I can remember.
Yeah, and critics loved it. Movie critics loved it. Music critics.
Those darn music critics.
They're such snobs.
Yeah, so they were saying that, it was...
That's not how you're supposed to listen to music.
Or, they were like, oh, this animation simplistic. And I think this is kind of a shame because it could have been a cool way to, get more music out to people. But yeah, they didn't see the
value
worth
in it.
of it. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, if you hear any rustlings and things like that, our dog is sleeping in here. So we thought she would be quiet.
But apparently she's rustling. So.
You may not even hear it. I don't know. But...
who knows? Yeah. And so it wasn't very successful financially.
Yeah. And the original plan was for them to keep releasing new segments for it. So the Fantasia of 1941 would be different than the Fantasia of 1940.
Right.
They would have some of the old ones and some new ones. In fact, they had some completed ones that they never released in Fantasia because it did so poorly.
Yeah,
and
so
it was kind of destined to not make money.
I think it's a really cool idea. Like, we're going to have this concert feature that we just keep adding on to, and we keep doing cartoons. And I think Walt really loved how it pushed his animators and stuff. So they had already, completed Clair de Lune.
Yeah, which, by the way, you should go
look it up
if you're a Fantasia
I think it's
fan.
in one of his other productions, too.
Is it?
We'll have to see, but I think I read that. But it's not in a Fantasia. And I think Walt was really disappointed, honestly. I think it was a big dream for him, and I think he was right that it's a really cool idea. I just don't think that he found the right audience and the right way to do it or something.
Yeah, I mean, we saw videos of him in the late 50s having an interview, and he still brings up Fantasia as if it was the biggest mistake of his career.
But also he loved it.
Yeah.
It seemed it seemed more like he was disappointed in how it was received, not in what they made.
Yes. He seemed, of course he seemed really proud of
Yeah,
things that they
because
made.
I think he was really proud. I mean, he used it in like the Wonderful World of Disney or whatever. He would use clips, different things for different things. Like he would use the dinosaur one for when he was talking about history or whatever, history of the world. And Fantasia, of course, had a big effect on people, which we'll kind of go into in the next bit. But that was basically the history of Fantasia.
Yeah, and here's what we thought about it when we watched it.
So, Aaron, you watched this week, right?
Yes, I watched it yesterday.
Awesome. So, how did it hold up from your memory to now?
Well, first thing I noticed is that the music is not very good. Well, I mean, the music is good.
Yeah.
But like the sound quality
Bach and
is...
Beethoven, psh, we can do better than that.
Those guys weren't even
like,
good at writing.
What a hack.
Like,
Sorry.
no, I just mean the music quality was a lot worse than I remembered. You know, from the VHS days.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The VHS days, you're like, oh, this is great. And now you're like, it just sounds like everything's cut off.
Yeah. I think we have much higher expectations for sound now. Although it was pretty, like we talked about in the history, I mean, it was pretty advanced for its time. I have to say, one of my favorite parts is that part where you get to come in and you hear all the instruments tuning.
Yeah,
my favorite part of any concert anyway.
Oh, at the beginning.
At the beginning, yeah. They do it at the beginning and intermission, where you get to hear kind of the instruments tuning.
Yeah.
And who decided what the aesthetic was going to be for Fantasia? That kind of dark, like, backlit look?
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It kind of looks scary, like you said, from when you were a kid. Because it looks kind of ominous. Very serious.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating, at least.
It's like, this is classical music.
Yeah, well, the camera's always kind of like looking up, like you're looking, there's like a hill, it seems like, and there's this like orchestra people around it, and I'm not sure where the conductor is, but apparently they maybe can all see him.
Well, maybe they did that intentionally, because if you were to put an orchestra on the stage, and if you're sitting in the audience, you would be looking up at them, right?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they wanted to make it, because they wanted it to be a concert feeling, so maybe they wanted it to feel like that, like you had to look up to the orchestra. Not that you see them for much of it, but you see them every once in a while.
You see them in between every single song.
I guess that's true.
And then, like, the announcer guy comes in and gives a really long, boring speech. In between every song.
I'm going to give you a real spoiler here. Jonah was not impressed with the announcer. Jonah was like, why did they pick this guy?
I mean, I know why they picked him now, but he's, like, not a very good orator. In Fantasia 2000, they did much better.
Oh my gosh.
Who did they have on there? They had, like
actors?
those magicians.
Oh my gosh.
And they also had...
I thought he did fine.
What's his face?
He reminds me of, like, a classical... Like, if you're listening to the classical channel, he reminds me of that guy who was introducing all the sets. I liked him.
Yeah, except for this isn't the classical channel. This is Disney. You know what I mean?
You're saying Mickey should have been the announcer?
Yeah. Mickey would have been great.
Mickey and Donald?
I think as a child, that part with where the guy just was talking, it was just so boring that I think I just blanked out. I was like, okay, now we're back.
Now the movie starts again.
When is this gonna end?
Because I don't even remember him at all.
Yeah.
So I just passed out when he came out and he started talking, and then when it stopped, it's like, okay, now we're watching it again.
Maybe that's how you liked Fantasia. You got little naps, you know? You felt really rejuvenated because, you know, in between every set, just a little side nap.
Yeah, and had a nap.
So what do you think of the
That's
Toccata?
probably why Mom liked it.
That's true. Yeah, that probably is why Mom liked it. Mom's like, this one puts them all out.
Yeah.
So
that would definitely work.
Can't argue with the results, you know?
No, I fell asleep 3 times throughout Fantasia. And we actually had to watch it in 3 different segments just for me because I kept falling asleep.
I couldn't believe it. I would be watching it and I'd turn to say something to Jonah and I was like, he's asleep again!
I feel bad about it. But, you know, when I was my first year in college, I had a professor and she said, if you fall asleep in a performance, it means you were tired. and that you needed to sleep. And so I don't feel bad about it.
That's true. I had a teacher actually too who said that like performance sleeping is the best.
Yeah.
Like that's what that music was supposed to do for you. That's what it did for you, right? You can't argue with the results. And sometimes, I went and saw Handel's Messiah and I fell asleep and didn't wake up till the Hallelujah chorus when you're supposed to stand up. That was really shocking, by the way, because I'd never been before. So I didn't know we were supposed to stand up. And then everyone's standing up it was a real jolt awake. It was like awake into standing. And then the Hallelujah chorus is pouring over me. It's kind of a cool experience. Hallelujah! Amazing. But, yeah, so what about the first piece, the Toccata and Fugue?
That's the worst one.
Oh my gosh. It's the one where they have, like, the different kind of abstract things, right? They were going for...
What? I know that watching it this time, I was like, oh, this part's going to be scary. It's going to be, like, loud and scary. And he goes, and I was like, oh, that was kind of underwhelming.
One thing I do like about this piece is I like the orchestral arrangement of it, because it's supposed to be for organ. It's a toccata, which means to like to touch or to play in Italian. So it was a type of piece that they wrote in the early Baroque period.
Yeah.
That Bach wrote a lot of it, and it would be partially improvised. So I like the orchestral version of it quite a bit that they made. I thought it was very dramatic.
Yeah.
Is it very like consistent with the time period and stuff? Absolutely not. I think there were like cymbals and things like that, a percussion section which just didn't exist until the romantic.
Later?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I think it's interesting that Walt really wanted to do kind of a, what was his name? Oscar Fischinger, right? There was an artist.
Oh, yeah.
Fischinger.
Oscar Fischinger.
And he did really like abstract artwork, things that weren't representational at all. And so they're like, oh, what we'll do is we'll put that to music. So it's the idea that it doesn't represent anything. It's just some of the images and shapes that the music might bring to your mind. But then Disney wasn't quite sure. He wanted to do that, but he was a little uncommitted. Right?
Yeah.
So you still have like the violins coming out of the clouds, you know what I mean? So it's sort of abstract, but it's also sort of representational. Although I have to say, although I don't enjoy the whole thing, I enjoy that part with the hills, with like the string shadows on them. Yeah, that part's really effective for me. I liked it. But yeah, I definitely did tune out a little bit after that one.
Yes, and I was happy when we got to Nutcracker, honestly. I feel bad about that, but...
Okay, but the craziest thing about getting to Nutcracker was them telling us that Nutcracker, he's like, oh, this comes from a lesser performed ballet.
Yes!
And we were like, what? We're like, Nutcracker's the most performed.
Yeah, we were watching this documentary, and they said they picked something from, like, this obscure
No, it's
ballet.
the announcer in Fantasia.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's
it was in it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we want, this composer thought it was a failure, and, but we wanted to pick something, and so I was like, the Nutcracker wasn't performed? So then we looked it up, because we had to, because... we can. What did people do before Google? Before, like, their literal any whim question they had?
Just read.
You just had to go
They had to go to the library.
It. Oh my gosh.
Which we also did.
They just believed whatever they heard.
But yeah, so we were like, that can't be true. But we looked it up. Yeah. It wasn't until, like...
1950, 10 years
1950,
after.
It might
Was
have
it
been...
1960?
In 1950. It wasn't too long after Fantasia.
Yeah.
But it was after Fantasia that Nutcracker had, like, a resurgence. Nutcracker wasn't popular. Now, if you asked anyone, what is a Nutcracker that you can name? A Nutcracker. What is a ballet you can name?
Swan Lake, Nutcracker.
Swan Lake, and Nutcracker. And I would pretty much think Nutcracker.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I wouldn't remember any others.
And I've seen Nutcracker, never even seen Swan Lake.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen Nutcracker a bunch of times. You watch the video of the ballet, things like that. So it's crazy that something that's so popular was not popular. Maybe they made it popular. Fantasia. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, we didn't read anything that said that, but I think that's very possible, actually.
Yeah. But of course, they didn't go with the story at all.
Yeah.
They went with a kind of a ballet of nature. I have to say, I really liked the part as a kid with the fairies. All the parts with the fairies.
True.
Where they come through and they make everything grow, etc. But what do you think about the Nutcracker, Aaron? Did you like the fairies?
The fairies, yeah, I like them. I think like the whole like when they touch like a leaf and something, and it like goes and it changes color. I was always like, oh,
yeah, especially when it goes to fall and they kind of turn color and fall off. And I love the skating fairies across the ice. That was fantastic. Although I do think that the two strongest parts of this, although I love the fairies, are the mushrooms.
The Russian mushrooms.
Yes. And a little mushroom that can't quite keep up. And so
he doesn't know the dance moves or whatever. She doesn't know the dance moves.
It reminds me of, how I would be in a dance. It's like, yeah here we go. We're just going to do this dance. Those mushrooms.
Stupid mushroom messing everything up.
And my other favorite part was always the fish as a kid. I actually remember thinking that part was kind of scary as a kid.
Yeah.
It was like so mysterious.
Yeah, the fish, I don't know. Fish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're scary.
Yeah, the fish, I was like, what's going on?
What's going on?
There's all these fish.
As an adult, I'm like,
gosh,
they look
that
kind of
fish is getting eaten by those...
They're
They're getting eaten by those other fish. Oh, there was definitely moments of seductive things in the Fantasia.
Yes. That was probably one of the biggest things that surprised me.
I also just love the music of the Nutcracker. I wonder if...
Me too.
Yeah.
Like a couple months ago, I was just like, I need to listen to the Nutcracker right now. It was like stuck in my head.
That music is really great.
Yeah. And then what happens next? Is it the Sorcerer's Apprentice that happens?
Yeah.
Next?
Sorcerer's.
Oh my gosh, I love the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Actually, all of Fantasia gave me a little bit of a creepy vibe, including Sorcerer's Apprentice. Although I think it was much funnier to me. Oh yeah. One more thing
about the Nutcracker, though. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Just the part where all the snow is coming down, and there's like the snowflakes, and you're like, oh, that's cool, that's snowflakes. And then like later on, it shows them, and they're different, and they're people, and all the snowflakes are individual people, and you're like, they're people. It's one of those sort of cool, also horrifying moments.
Yeah.
Every snowflake is a little person, and billions of them die every year or something.
They live a fantastic, wonderful life, falling through the air, and then they burn out quickly.
Spitting. Yes.
It's a beautiful, short life. It's kind of, special in a way.
Yeah. Everyone's different, everyone's special.
And they all die.
Yes.
Everyone has their own snowflake. Everyone has a plum on their back.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, that's an inside joke. Okay, but The Sorcerer's Apprentice is by far my favorite short.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the music's not by the most prominent composer. I've never heard of Dugas before.
Yeah, I haven't really either.
He's French.
But they had the whole redesign of Mickey from that, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
That was the first time you get the Mickey that we all know and love today, where he has the more defined eyes, where it's not just a dot, but you have the white and the dot.
Yeah, the white and the dot. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has kind of more. He has more toddler-esque almost.
Yeah, they changed his body from being an oval to more of a pear shape.
Yeah.
Which also allowed him to do different kind of movement things.
Yeah.
So we have Fantasia to thank for,
Mickey.
For Mickey.
Well, we talked about that in history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have Fantasmic. We didn't have
the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I know, right? To everyone who loves Fantasmic at Disneyland, that is enough reason to go watch Fantasia right now as a thank you for Fantasmic at Disneyland.
So what are your thoughts about Sorcerer's Apprentice, Aaron?
Well, just going from the beginning, I remember watching the first part, and it's kind of cool. The sorcerer's pulling this thing, and you're like, what is that? And it slowly turns into a butterfly, which is really original because butterflies, transform. And then, but I'm thinking as an adult, what are you actually doing? And how is this at all useful at all?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, so the sorcerer for his daily work just makes smoke pictures He doesn't do anything with the
To
potion.
himself.
Like, what is that?
Maybe he's learning a new kind of magic, you know?
Smoke picture magic? Gandalf already has that down.
No, like imagery illusions.
Okay, sure. Wow, you took that really seriously.
The only thing I could think of is like this is some way of like telling the future where you're pulling it out and like, oh, look at the lines here.
I think he's just trying to look cool. I mean, look at his outfit. That guy cares about appearances.
He does.
A long, sparkly blue robe, tall hat.
He's like, I want everyone to know
Well-groomed
I'm a
beard.
sorcerer.
He's like, I don't want them to look at me and think anything else.
Well-groomed beard? I think his beard just grows.
I guess I didn't notice.
It definitely made me feel connected with Mickey because I'm like, that guy's not doing anything. He's like wasting all this power making smoke butterflies. I can actually like get something done. And he's like, it's like not even hard for him. He just puts the hat on. He's like, done. This is easy. Why is this even hard?
No. It's not even hard.
I know.
And then he messes up everything.
And then he messes up everything.
Okay. He's new to it, so he didn't know how to, put the end onto his, whatever magical program he put on it. So that's just a bug. He just needs to fix that. And he's like already way more effective than the wizard who was making butterflies.
It's true. At least Mickey has a practical reason, right? But yeah, I always wondered where they were living. It always gave me very creepy vibes because it's always so dark and like, I don't know, long stone corridors.
Yeah, and they play around with the lighting a lot.
They do. The slanted lights and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the light coming through the doorway, like you don't ever really have direct light until I think the scene where they're all like changing, becoming new broomsticks.
And this is one of the few stories, right, that they didn't change it at all. Like it was an original story. It was the story of the song. That's what I read. Okay, I'm going to say it. It is the story of this song. The Sorcerer's Apprentice was written by Goethe, actually. And then Dukas made a musical version of it. And then they did that with Mickey. I'm sure it's not exactly the same, because I imagine it has some Disneyfication. Disney transformification happening.
Yeah, transformification.
Transmogrification happening.
Yeah, but there are definitely some really great moments to this, like when Mickey's sailing on the book.
Love that.
Oh, that's the best part. So iconic.
And Mary was like, Mickey's so violent.
I know. Well, Mickey sees that the broom is not this broom that he somewhat brought to life. Let's pretend it doesn't have a mind or anything, because it apparently doesn't. I mean, it just does what he says, right? It just goes back and forth, water to the thing. It does what it's programmed to do. But Mickey's solution is kind of like some people's solution with their computer when they're really mad and they're just like, shut it or whatever. He just chops up the whole broom into several pieces. It's so violent. And they kind of frame it that way too, because they don't even show him like hacking it. It's like in shadow. It's too violent to be shown on screen.
So here's a thought. This was Walt Disney predicting computer viruses.
Oh my gosh. He's brilliant. Whoa. Phone mind.
That's it.
The other thing I liked is when Mickey's like, he's like throwing water out the window.
Yes.
And then like next second, like everything is underwater. So you're like, is the whole world underwater now? Because he was throwing it out the window. Or is this like another chamber?
I always wondered about that too. I was like, where's that water going?
It doesn't make complete sense.
The water is increasing so fast that it can fill up all the way to the roof of the room.
Also, why does he even have to move the water from the well to the other well?
Yeah, wait, where is he moving the water from? So he's moving the water from a well to the cauldron?
No, it's
to
just
another
like
well?
No, he's just taking it up to another well. He's like taking it upstairs.
That's dumb. You're right. That's dumb. It sounds like prisoners having to like move rocks.
It sounds like the sorcerer didn't want an apprentice and was trying to get rid of him.
That's true.
Yeah, if I was Mickey, I would do the same thing if I was Mickey. I'd be like, this is dumb. I'm gonna get this broom to do my job.
Literally, you don't have to do a brain to do the job that my master sent me to do. But yeah, so...
Anything else left on Sorcerer's Apprentice? Aaron?
Gotta love that dreams, of course, sequence.
When the brooms are rising from the dead, that is also very creepy.
I love that with the music, the dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Da-da-da-dum, dum.
So, Mary, from what you said, is Sorcerer's Apprentice, is that a program symphony?
Yeah, so it was written to be with Goethe's work. And Goethe, if you don't know, he wrote
you're saying it was a programmatic symphony? Like computer program?
Oh my gosh. No, leave it. Oh my gosh. I can't handle you guys.
That's it.
We have unlocked.
When I say you hit the nail on the head, I mean you hit the nail on the head.
Oh my gosh. And then you move right from Sorcerer's Apprentice with cute Mickey,
happy-go-lucky Mickey,
and the scary, of course, sorcerer. Although the sorcerer was based on Walt Disney, his look.
Yeah.
So
his look where he raises his eyebrow.
The really scary one. Apparently, that was Walt Disney.
Isn't the sorcerer's name what is the sorcerer's name? Isn't it
I don't know. Turnidoc?
Ensid
something like that, isn't it?
No, that's the big beast at the end.
Oh, just kidding.
With the wings.
You're wrong.
I think of that one as what's inside the sorcerer.
Ensid or something? It's Ensid or something, I
should
swear.
know from Kingdom Hearts.
I learned it from the Kingdom Hearts, yeah.
I don't know, though.
Should we know from Kingdom Hearts, though? Should we?
No, boy. Anyway, but I like him at the end. I like how he's because he looks at because you can tell kind of as an adult, from the expressions. So the expressions are really great on his face.
They are.
The sorcerer. Because you're he's kind of upset at Mickey, but he's not super upset at him. He's just
he seems like he's trying not to laugh.
I need to make sure you never do this again. But also, this is fine. We're gonna. This is good that you're curious about your magic and everything.
Yeah.
And get back to work.
It's kind of like when a kid does something bad, but it's really funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just does something so clever or so, I don't know.
So stupid
that you're just
funny.
That's hilarious. But you have to keep from laughing because if you laugh, you have no authority anymore.
Well, having become a father
Newly
at this
minted
point,
parent.
there's a certain emotion that happens when your child does something bad that they haven't ever done before, that they couldn't do before. And you're oh, never do that again. Also, that's amazing that you can do that now.
I'm so impressed with you. But also, if you ever do it again, you're in big trouble, mister. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, he wasn't as scary as an adult. As an adult, I was oh, he's a nice guy, and he's trying to keep it together with Mickey and everything.
Apparently, the cure for floods of water is splash magic.
Splash magic. Amazing.
He's a waterbender.
Waterbender, definitely. But we move from that into the Rite of Spring, which is so intense.
Yes.
It's oh, here's a fun fantasy, into here's really literal creation of the world.
It really doesn't fit with the rest of the thing. I'm
anywhere.
What? It's not anything what Rite of Spring is about. It's also totally different animation style from everything else. It really sticks out.
This did not get the Jiminy Cricket.
And they put this before intermission, so it's just sitting in your mind. And I guess they wanted you to be depressed.
Nothing made me more depressed about the dinosaurs dying out than this did. Because it was just the slow, inevitable doom of a species or something.
Yeah. But apparently they were really proud of some of the animation techniques that they used for this segment, because the thing that they talked about in every single book and in every single show that we watched about
was this
Fantasia
segment.
Was about the mud vats and the lava.
They loved the lava.
You to know that they spent a lot of time working on that.
And you can see that, in the lava animation and stuff, it looks heavy. It looks like lava.
Yeah.
So they did a good job of capturing the movement, I think. I mean, I guess I've never seen real lava, but
Yeah, I kind of turned to Mariah. I was like, "Is that how lava really moves?" And she was like, "No."
No.
It's how mud moves.
But maybe it could if under certain conditions. Maybe like
right?
if it's being animated in a studio.
And they watched mud making bubbles. And that's exactly how it would look.
It was pretty intense. They had a guy with like a sheet, and he would have like frames, and he would sort of calculate in his head how many frames would go into 1 second, and he would watch it and guesstimate how long it would take for a bubble to pop, and then he would map out like how many frames they would have to do the bubble popping.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And of course, they chose to go with more realistic dinosaurs, right?
Yeah,
those scary dinosaurs.
No, I liked when the dinosaurs are like digging in the mud. I mean, it looks cool.
It does look cool,
which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's true.
To say.
That actually was one of the, so like Jonah said, I feel like I slept through a lot of Fantasia as a kid, but that was one thing I remembered was of this part, I don't remember any of the like coming in and the creation of the world and like those little microorganisms and things.
I don't remember
any of that, but I did remember the mud part. I remember the fight between the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the other dinosaur.
Yeah,
that's not
I do remember that.
And
because I remember that being my favorite kind of dinosaur for a long time.
Stegosaurus, because they're heroes.
Yeah,
obviously.
He was defending he risked his life and gave his life for all the other dinosaurs.
I thought the same thing. I was like, he's the hero.
He's a hero.
Even though in real life, I read that those two kind of dinosaurs, they would never have met. They lived in different ages.
What?
I know, it ruins it, doesn't it? What? Disney's not
it was
real,
the 40s,
everyone.
They didn't know.
Well, in Jurassic Park,
if they did know, they didn't have the internet.
That's why we need Jurassic Park and things, so that
all of our dinosaur dreams can come together.
They can live together, yes.
But yeah, I love that part. And I love, well, I don't love how the Tyrannosaurus Rex wins and then basically roars about how proud he is of killing this one dinosaur.
Yeah.
Why is he running after all the dinosaurs when he has a big, huge meal right there after he feeds
Doesn't make sense.
Well, there's the other time where the dinosaur eats the other dinosaur with the pterodactyl that comes down.
Uh-huh.
At first, the pterodactyls are coming and they're eating like all the fish, and then it's like, whoa, whoa, and I was like, oh no, he's gonna die. It's like, oh, he's gonna die this time. Oh, he's gonna die. And finally, the big crocodile comes and eats it, and that's it.
Yep.
But apparently, Stravinsky didn't like it very much. He didn't like what they did.
But to be fair, it wasn't the animation he didn't like, because he actually came to the studio and he saw all the animation and he was like,
approved it. Or
yeah, he approved it, or he didn't say anything was wrong with it. But he didn't like the fact that, at least people say they believe that what he didn't like about it was that they changed some of his instrumentation, which honestly I would have been kind of miffed about too.
Yeah,
if I was
they changed his instrumentation. But this piece, I actually feel is very fitting for a screen adaptation because the writing style is what they call cubism. Mm-hmm. Because Stravinsky denied like the 12-tone serialism movement that was going on at the same time with Schoenberg. So he needed to create his own kind of way to be out there and doing new things with music. So he created cubism. So when he was composing, he'd literally have like a block of a bunch of different musical ideas on a table, and he'd move them around and think about how they would sound if he just put them like right next to each other. So that's why you have like the dun 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 dun, and then that's one thing, and then it goes to dun 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 dun. Things. Those are the different things, and I
feel like I can hear the Rite of Spring.
Anyways, that kind of cutting and moving to totally unrelated musical ideas is actually very cohesive to the way that people cut and edit movies. So
yeah, that's true. So it kind of really fit into a film.
So kind of like you see the lava, and then it cuts to the water, and then they're meeting. You know, it's kind of...
Yeah, it's true. It kind of puts it more segmenty. It fits
really well with the music, actually, I think.
Yeah. But I feel like it's sad.
I keep thinking, too...
Oh, sorry. Uh-huh.
I kept thinking too that this is from the 40s. Like, people, I think if you want to see a moving dinosaur, this is like the only place you're gonna see it.
That's true.
That's true. I don't know how. The only thing I could think of is like, when did they start making like King Kong movies and stuff in Japan? Those kind of movies.
I don't know. I think King Kong was after, though. Maybe not.
Huh.
And now I feel like I'm really bad at judging.
Because I think that's interesting, right? Because that would be the only other way. But obviously, this is probably much more lifelike,
Right.
even though it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the first one that I fell asleep in.
But after this one, of course, you're exhausted, so you have to take a break. Because you're like, man, that was depressing. All those dinosaurs died. First they died of starvation, and then they died by, I don't know,
Yeah.
earthquake. Yeah.
Quaking. And like in those mud pits, like.
Yeah. Thank you for the sound effects. Those are really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. You should have done the sound effects for them, Jonah. Amazing.
I should have done it.
Yeah, I turned to Mariah during the earthquake too. I was like, "Is that how earthquakes work?" And she's like, "No."
Mariah's ruining all of Disney magic.
By the way, Mariah is a seismologist.
Yeah, she's a... Wait,
Yes, she is.
Is that what you say? Seismologist? Is that what you say?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
A geologist
right.
with like an emphasis in earthquakes and seismology.
Yeah, exactly. She
I'll
rocks.
tell you more about it, but it would sound like I was making it up.
She rocks.
Yeah, she's married to Aaron, so
Yeah.
we like her. We move into the Pastoral Symphony after this, right?
Yes.
By Beethoven.
Oh, well, first there's the soundtrack.
That's true.
Oh, that's true. They talked about the different instruments and stuff.
And I did like that. Like, if I was a kid, I feel like I would have liked that.
That was actually one of my favorite parts. I didn't fall asleep in that part.
I didn't fall asleep either. I enjoyed listening to all the different instruments. And, like, you kind of got more of, like, the people there and everything. I don't know. I thought that part was fun.
Yeah.
That part is fun.
It was a jamming good time.
And I was looking at it, I was like, I wonder what they actually, like, try to represent that line, because it's not like a spectrogram of music in any means, but...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the line. I love the line. I forgot about that.
No, yeah, that's totally not reflecting
That is one of the parts I
anything.
remembered as a kid. I was like, that's pretty, and that's pretty cool.
If you didn't know, I mean, in the 1940s, like, if you didn't know what a sound wave looked like, I guess I would totally believe, yeah, that's
what those sounds look like.
That's what it looks like when they make those different sounds.
Yeah, totally.
But now I'm watching it, I'm like,
That's not how it looks.
You know, it does kind of look like those sounds. So I think they did a pretty good job of that.
They did a good job at like representing how the sounds might look if
or how
you were
it feels when you listen
But
to
it's
them.
definitely not a spectrogram.
No,
Like
it's not
I
a
know
spectrogram.
this. But I could watch their bassoon drop the left foot all day.
Yes, I love the bassoon part. That was so fun.
Yeah.
I was like, the bassoon's the best.
That is a good part.
Yeah, those instruments had character. I liked it. Speaking of character, I think we need to address the centaur in the room.
Oh my goodness, Aaron, I don't know if you had the same issues with the centaurs as we did, but I found the animation that they chose for the Pastoral Symphony with the centaurs was very awkward.
If you thought Ariel didn't wear enough
I like
clothing
the flying horses. I said I like the flying horses, which also apparently can swim, which is not something you automatically get with flying horses, I feel like. But, you know,
these are talented
these are flying horses, which are also part duck.
I don't know if you know, Mary saw this while we were watching. 2 of the horses change colors after they dip into the water.
Yeah, 2 of them drop into the water, and when they come up, they're different colors.
The other 2 don't.
The other 2 don't. So it's a total continuity error or something on Disney Plus.
I don't know what happened.
That's so weird. And I remember with the rainbow part at the end where the horses are going through the rainbow, I thought that they changed color when they went through the colors, but they didn't.
Oh. I have a vague memory of something like that too, but maybe it was from a different show.
Maybe. Yeah, but shall we talk about the centaurs?
I think we have to. I mean, there's some real issues there.
Yeah.
Let's first talk about the fact that apparently the guy centaurs have no definition whatsoever on their bodies.
And no nipples.
They're just a flat surface. They don't have any muscles. Yeah. It was mostly the guys that bothered me. I thought the girls were pretty well animated.
They're pretty scandalous, especially for 1940. I'm pretty shocked, You have, like, full frontal nudity at some points, almost.
But they were very tasteful about, like, they smoothed it all out and everything.
Yeah, and I think the idea is that Fantasia was supposed to be more of, like, an expression of art.
Yeah, so I think it was artistic, right?
Yeah, they weren't necessarily... They didn't release this into movie theaters for the general public. It was...
They did later.
Something that you would dress up for to go and see, right?
That's true, as a concert.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I wonder if they meant for it to be for kids. I mean, they never really addressed that in any of the things. Maybe they just thought of it as, like, a family movie, but, like, some of it seems very kid-like, But I'm not sure they were totally gearing towards that audience.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think it's just more artistic. And then, of course, you have the flowing wine.
Oh, yeah.
I do kind of
Lots of drinking, lots of flirting, lots of flower wreaths as clothing.
Yeah. What was that, Aaron? What were you saying?
Yeah, I do. It definitely seems like they're trying to, like, we are artists. We are going to look at us. We can draw centaurs and Greek gods.
And Greek mythology. We can do Greek mythology. I feel like that was a big part of it. You know what I mean? It's very, like, regal and classicism.
You intellectuals out there can come and watch our cartoons because they are high art.
Yes, it does definitely feel like that at times.
It's funny because it's kind of bold, because I don't think Walt Disney was ever like, I'm going to try and be highbrow, you know what I mean?
No.
But yeah, there's a little bit of that I think kind of sunk in anyway. But I don't think he ever meant it that way. He always was trying to entertain the audience, not, like, talk down to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that saved it was the stuff that wasn't like that, like the donkey and the Bacchus and...
Yeah. And I have to say,
and the
god of wine must be the weakest god of all time.
Oh, yeah. He was like...
He can't even waterbend his own wine? I mean, what's happening there? You know what I'm saying?
I was definitely like, so apparently Zeus, just for fun, just throws lightning bolts down at Bacchus whenever he wants.
I know. He's just yawning. He's like, I got bored of it after we ran out of lightning bolts. He got tired after just, like, a few minutes. I was like, no wonder Zeus is the most annoying god.
He is the worst.
He's the worst. If you've
he's the worst.
I did think it was interesting that we go to those two gods, and they have, like, all the muscle definition in the world.
But the
and the centaurs don't have any.
I know. It's just whoever was in charge of them, they don't look as good.
They look really awkward.
The centaurettes, that is literally what they're called. That's what the guy in the announcement says. They look like women, but the guys do not. They just look like... Yeah, flat slab.
They do look like slabs.
Well, like, even... I wonder if they learned from Fantasia, because, like, the genie doesn't have stuff like that, but he also doesn't look as, like, much of a blank slate as those.
I don't know, the centaurs look strange. And you know what? Actually, a centaur would be really hard to animate. Because that's a lot of limbs. And a lot of, like...
That's 2 extra limbs.
It's 2 extra limbs.
I did think about that watching this part. I was like, nobody knows how a flying horse dives into the water.
Yeah, you just have to make that up. I did love the flying horses. They're my favorite
job with that.
And the flying babies. They had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those called? Cherubs?
Oh, yeah.
The
Is that
cherubs.
what you call a flying baby?
I'm very careful with the frontal nudity on the...
on the cherubs.
Flying babies. Oh my goodness.
Careful of the fact that there just wasn't anything there. It was just...
Yeah, sometimes they were, like, spreading their legs, and I was like, oh.
No, Jonah!
I guess there's nothing there.
It's supposed to be family
Apparently it's just a doll.
They're babies, though, so...
They're the babies.
They're just little flying dolls.
This is art.
I was surprised, though. I have to say it.
I was. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, actually, with the Nutcracker fairies, too, I was a little bit surprised there, too.
Yeah, the Nutcracker fairies are also that way.
But then when it got to this one, I was like, well, okay.
I guess. But you know what? As a kid, I never thought about it. I was never like, oh, It's probably just because I'm adult that I see it.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, you're just like, oh yeah, they're just creatures. I get it.
Yeah, as a kid, I just remembered, oh no, the little flying Pegasus is gonna get blown away.
Exactly. I was really disturbed by the storm as a kid, too. I was like, that's scary. Okay, so we go from that one, though. Which, by the way, of all the Beethoven to pick, the Pastoral Symphony?
Yeah, that was an interesting choice.
I mean...
I actually really like the music, though.
It's fine, but it's not like... There's a few parts that I'm like, this is Beethoven. Like, if I'm going to have a Beethoven symphony, I want it to be Eroica or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, go listen to Eroica, everyone.
I mean, every single one of Beethoven's symphonies are going to be great, but...
That's true. Yeah, I did think it was an interesting choice. But then, of course, we move on to...
I didn't mind that.
You didn't mind it?
Yeah.
We move on to Mussorgsky, right? Night on Bald Mountain. This one has an interesting... They had used an interesting
this
technique.
is alligators and hippos.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. We're going on to the Dance of Hours.
Because that's the one that I always forget about. I'm like, oh no, it's the end, right? Or we're like at the end, and then they're like, oh no, it's
Dance of the
Hours. Jonah, how did you feel about Dance of the Hours?
Well, Dance of the Hours is always the one where like I can't wait till we get to this one. But I did fall asleep in this one.
He did. Did you ever watch the rest of it?
I did not finish. I didn't finish the Dance of Hours, so maybe I should just stop talking. I made it to where the alligators are like coming down the stairs super fancily, like this.
He's moving back and forth, in case you're wondering.
So I made it to that portion, and I was enjoying it up until then, but I just fell asleep again.
Oh my gosh.
That was the second time. I didn't fall asleep.
I really enjoyed the Dance of the Hours.
Yeah.
I think it's really fun. You have dawn and then afternoon and then evening. And I just love the characterization in that one. I think the characterization is really strong. Kind of like Sorcerer's Apprentice. I think that's the one where you remember different characters. You're like, that's the prima ballerina from the beginning, and that's the prima hippo ballerina. And they just do a really good job with it, I think. I love how the hippos keep like pulling their flimsy tutus down.
The elephants.
Is it no? It's the hippos. There's
the hippo when
There's elephants
sleeping?
as well, but
Oh, you're right. It is the hippos.
it's the hippos, and you're like, that's not. It's just funny. You're like, that's not doing anything. First of all, it's see-through in the first place. I'm just saying. And then you're pulling it down so that it can then bounce back up. Anyway, it just was hilarious, and they clearly did that on purpose. It's all played for laughs.
And you have
in this one.
You have the sneaky elephants, which I didn't remember. I was like, this is the hippo and alligator one, but it actually has
Ostriches
ostrich and the elephants.
I forgot about them
And
too.
there's even another one.
Yeah. Do you think that the alligator wants to eat the hippo? Or do you think it's just like, now we're going to dance? Do you think he's in love with it, the hippo, or wants to eat
It
it?
definitely seemed like it was like a love-lunch relationship.
One of the only recorded love or lunch relationships. I do have Twilight.
They're kind of dancing like they're in love, but it sort of seems like the alligator is like, he wants to eat the hippo, and the other alligators are like, or they're crocodiles, I think. They're probably crocodiles because it's African creatures, I think.
Oh, I'm not sure.
The crocodiles are trying to herd the
That's why you never smile at a crocodile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the crocodile is sort of
it's
like a Don Juan kind of character,
Yeah, kind of swoop in. I just thought it was funny. Because he never, like, goes in to eat her. But you're like, does he want to eat her? Is he just like, I'm in love with you? And she's like, no, I can't.
So I think it's funny that, like,
I love it.
Because there's the sneaky elephants who come when the hippo is sleeping and tiptoe around. And I don't know, have some weird kind of like bubble thing where they blow the hippo up on her little bed and it goes up and she's like floating on the bubbles and the hippos are just dancing around.
I love that the chair can barely hold the hippo, but the bubbles can hold the hippo and the chair. Let's just talk about that for physics for a second, but
exactly. And then there's a big wind that comes, and it literally blows the elephants away. Like not even a little bit. Like they're like leaves. They're like, but the hippo is still just floating on bubbles, and it just floats back down.
This is theater logic, you guys. This is drama logic right here. I think they made it as like a parody of current dance breaks in Hollywood.
It definitely seemed like parodying like ballet stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it parodied ballet, and it was also parodying like, you know, those big dance numbers, the really serious ones from like the musicals of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is really funny. I really like it. I think that I'm a little tired by the time I get to it in Fantasia, but like watching it alone, it's really fun. It's a fun time.
Yeah.
And then you need it. You need it right before Night on Bald Mountain.
Yeah, I think parts of it aren't quite interesting enough to hold my attention, like you said.
Like the elephants. Like you said, you forgot
especially
about the elephants.
Transitions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the transitions between them too, because like the ostrich scene is interesting, but then it's like, oh, and it's over. There's no resolution. It's just like, oh, we dropped the grapes. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, it's true. The end kind of doesn't. I feel like it needed a little bit stronger story.
There are like amazing moments in that one that I feel like they used a lot in like those little Disney video things. They'd show like the moment where the
hippo runs from forever away, like you literally can't see her, runs and jumps
and crushes the alligator, you know?
Then he picks her up, yeah.
So there's like some really like...
I do like that part, because now I know what's happening, because I've seen it before, so I'm like, oh, he's gonna crush him! He's gonna crush him!
Oh my gosh.
And then he does.
But yeah, there's a lot of it of this section that's actually not quite up to par, I feel.
Yeah. It could be stronger. Like, if it was a little stronger, I feel like it'd be perfect. It has the perfect music. It has a really great concept, but I think some of it doesn't quite play out all the way.
Yep.
Fun stuff, though. And then you get to Night on Bald Mountain.
Which is probably the most famous of everything.
I feel like it, too. Did you know that they considered, I don't know if they still are, but I read a lot of movie news, and they considered making a live-action like movie based around Night on Bald Mountain. Really?
Yeah.
How would you do that? How would you make it a whole movie?
You would
live
not
action,
make it about
Mary.
You wouldn't make it about him. You would make it about some people living in that little town, you know?
Trying to stop him?
And then the mountain comes to life and it's bringing dead things, you know?
So it's like a zombie live action movie by Disney?
Yeah.
Okay,
well, it could be like a gang of kids are like, oh, some weird things are happening, and there's some kind of mystery with the mountain behind there, and yeah.
You have Goonies too, right there.
Yeah, except for adventure like Goonies, yes, or Stranger Things.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember liking Night on Bald Mountain when I was a kid. Actually, even though it was scary, it was like fun scary.
Yeah.
You know, this is interesting.
And the music's really awesome.
You never got bored because you have all those ghosts floating out of the, out of the ground and out of the town.
I was surprised how, like, scary the images were.
Yes. I also was.
I was like, those are, like, skeletons. And it's like, they're like, ghosts.
This one definitely has some scary images, which they kind of achieved. They would reflect it in tin and film it.
Yep.
So it gave it kind of that eerie effect.
You know how like the skeletons and ghosts are like really
snaking around?
Yeah. That's how they did it, is they would film it as a reflection on a thing of tin.
Yeah, which kind of gave it its more eerie thing. I think that's also how they got the town, because the town looks normal, right? And then you see it kind of switch, kind of tilt. Yeah, it's really like, eerie effect. It's cool.
Moving into a different kind of realm a little bit.
There's so many things I have a hard time appreciating just because I didn't know hard and they had to work for some of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, to film it on the tin, they had to make the room really dark so they didn't have anything else reflected in it. And so they had to wait really long time between every single shot. And so it would take them an hour to do each one, right?
Something like that. It was like a long time for every single shot in that one.
Anyways, we were reading this story in this book where they said they had something logged in at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
And then nothing for 5 o'clock a.m. This is in the morning.
Yeah, this is in the morning.
They were rushing to finish Fantasia. And then they have something at 6 o'clock, and they're like, what happened to 5 o'clock?
And all of the animators sheepishly admitted, they're like, yeah, we all fall asleep. And so there was nothing logged for that time. So then they woke up, though, in time to change it. But they all fell asleep. It's just really funny. Yeah, I thought it was really funny. One of the animators, when they asked him, like, oh, how'd you come up with Night on Bald Mountain? He was just like, oh, I just imagined I was a mountain of stone, but I could think and move. It's something like that. That's it. And that was the whole quote. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
So did they invent all of that stuff then? The Chernobog and everything?
I think so. I think because when we were watching and reading things about it, I think they talked about how they came up with like a mountain turning into kind of a monster thing.
Wow.
It's a cool image. As a kid, I remember really liking the part where he curls his wings back in and becomes the mountain. And you're like, that's amazing. And then as a kid, everywhere you go, you're looking at the mountains and you're like, that could be a dragon. That could be, whatever it is.
I know. I definitely did that.
That could be a giant's foot.
Yeah.
I used to do that as a kid all the time.
You know that it's definitely inspired me in my life because every time I'm holding a blanket around me, that is literally impossible not to imitate the waking of the Chernobog.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. Yep. It was very musically appropriate and also very well executed. I think it's one of the best ones. Mountain.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Even though it is pretty scary and like those demons, I was like, this could not. So many of these, I'm like, this couldn't be made now. For kids.
Yeah.
Like in a cartoon. You know what I mean? It could be made now, but more as like an art film, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this goes straight into Ave Maria. Like, there's no break in the music.
Which is why I think I forgot about Ave Maria, like you said.
Yeah, you're just like zooming out from the mountain, and then you follow these people for a long time, which was actually extremely hard to do with animation. So it took 6 full days to film that scene, and the reason why it was so hard is we've talked about the multiplane camera several times. So they were using the horizontal multiplane camera again, but they didn't have enough length to do this huge zoom out. And
yeah, because you have to go through the animation. So the camera is on a track and it goes forward through the different planes.
The planes, yeah. And the animators, they didn't know what they were going to do because it was like 2 weeks before they had to turn in the film to send to New York for release. And so they said, we need a much bigger space to be able to create the multiplane camera situation to even film this. And they were coming to Walt Disney as if it was impossible. And the next day they come to work and they find the place where they had the multiplane camera and all of the chairs had been ripped out, which gave them about 40 feet extra space, or 40 yards extra space. And Walt Disney, he said, okay, go ahead. Do whatever you need to do.
Whatever you need to do.
So they had to create a new track. They said pretty much everything was held together with tape. And they said, but it was going to be okay because they only needed to do one take of this and then they would never use something like this again.
Oh
and so they do the take. It's perfect. There's not like a glitch in the zooming in scene. But then they look at the film and somebody forgot to put the right lens on it.
Oh my gosh.
And so you see like everything and you see all the people moving around, moving the different frames the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
So they couldn't use it. They had to do it again. Now they only have a week.
Couldn't they cut it? Make it smaller or something?
Yes. No, they couldn't do it. Yeah. Not at that time. Because remember, it's in like the...
You're right.
Have to cut around
It'd be so small, yeah.
So anyways, they have to do it all again. And so they start recording again, just 24 hours a day doing it, only pausing in the afternoons from 7 to 10 when Walt Disney would play badminton in that room.
Oh my gosh.
And then they were a little over halfway through the recording progress, and then an earthquake happened. It wasn't a big one, and nothing moved, but they couldn't be sure if anything moved until they finished the whole shot and then watched it. So either they finish it and they don't know, or they have to start again. And so they decided they had to start over again.
Oh my god.
So they start again, and this time Walt Disney canceled his badminton.
He's like, you know what? Just for tonight, we're going to let you guys have the space.
And they finished it in time, obviously, but it was quite the hassle.
Wasn't it close? Didn't you tell me earlier that it was so close?
It was like within hours of when they needed to send it in.
To like mail it to New York. That's so crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So
did they make a copy of it, I hope?
I wonder if they have someplace you can watch the one where they're just putting the different you can see all the people. I would love to see it, just to like see the kind of work they did. But it's really cool.
Yeah. I thought it was funny that Walt Disney didn't cancel his badminton thing until the third time that they had to re-record it.
He's like, yeah, it's still not worth it to cancel my badminton.
Yeah.
Who plays badminton?
They probably needed a break anyways.
Yeah. And
it's like, can't you find some other badminton field?
I have to say, Ave Maria gives me very much Lord of the Rings, elves walking through the forest vibes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, these are the elves of Rivendell, you know?
Yeah.
Just coming through the forest.
Yeah.
As an adult, I see it, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like all the people praying and all the demons go away, right?
Yeah, it's true. I do wonder what the story is. I didn't think this as I was watching it, because I wasn't like thinking narratively. I was just like, oh, this is cool images for Ave Maria, right? And the really tall trees are really beautiful. But I wonder, is this the town's, like, do the townspeople do this every day? Or is this like a holy day? Is this all the people, or just like the nuns and monks?
I mean, it must be everybody, because there are a ton of those guys.
There are a ton of people. And it's like a sunrise hike, because they just go up to where it's... Yeah, you never see their destination, do you?
No.
Because don't you just watch them walk through the forest, and then you basically go up to dawn?
You kind of go up, and then there's like these big hills and mountains and stuff.
Right. But I'm saying you never see, like, this is their destination. Does that make sense?
No, it kind of feels like the evil demons are sort of like all the bad people who died, and then these are all the good people who died, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, I never thought about it that way. That's kind of cool.
Maybe.
Evil people go to the mountain. Good people take a long walk through the forest.
Because they don't feel like all those people are like the people.
I don't know.
You party in the mountain or walking alone in the forest?
I'm kind of thinking I want to be a demon where I just fly.
Well, originally they were gonna end the Ave Maria with them going and like lighting candles in a cathedral, kind of like a cathedral made
trees,
of trees,
right? Which actually I thought was really lovely.
It was really pretty.
Yeah, that's what
they
it
wanted
looked
to
like.
end with something that was a little bit more of a universal symbol of hope. So that's why they ended with the sunrise.
Which I get. Although it is Ave Maria.
Yeah.
So...
It did look like a cathedral. Also, connecting all the way back to the Toccata and Fugue, there is a little part in that where there's a little cathedral kind of thing that happens in that one, too.
Oh, in the Toccata and Fugue? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it would originally have been played inside a church.
I wonder why they chose Ave Maria. Sorry, go ahead.
I know all those little guys that are walking, or girls maybe, I don't know. It wasn't until this time watching it that I was like, oh, they're carrying like a staff with a light on it.
Yeah.
All before I was like, they just have really bright heads.
I have to say, sometimes it does look like they're just like, it's just like a creature or something, because sometimes they look like they're flickering, and sometimes you're like, what is that?
Sometimes
fuzzy
like
yellow thing, the balloons that they're carrying.
Yeah.
They're going to a great birthday party. It's a big birthday bash. Return the dog.
Maybe Maybe those are all the sacrifices for Chernabog.
Oh, this is so sad. Chernabog, he's an interesting character. He did a lot of good facial expressions.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of knew where he was going. Powerful,
Right.
scary, terrifying.
Okay.
Every 1,000 years, the city has to sacrifice itself so that it won't destroy the world.
There you go. Maybe they're just finally like, this is enough. There's been a giant demon in our mountain for years. Maybe we should move. Maybe we should go get a new town somewheres.
Yeah.
Yeah, that still doesn't explain how they all have matching glowing rods.
Maybe they're all wizards.
But
Maybe
so
this is
probably
the same
they're
world
just-
that Sorcerer's Apprentice lives in. There you
anyway,
go.
I feel like it kind of ends with a little bit. It's not quite as exciting as some of the other parts of Fantasia.
Yeah. I do think it was an interesting choice. But yeah. So overall, I think that
Does it hold up, Mary?
does it hold up? I feel like I would almost exactly agree with my childhood self. I wasn't as scared at parts as I was as a kid, but I was definitely bored in the same parts as I was as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe that means I haven't developed at all as a human, but I could appreciate the things that they had done and still be bored. But I do have to say, I love the idea.
Yeah.
And I wish that it could have been successful. I wish it had an audience so that they would have kept making them the
Yeah.
way that they planned on.
And obviously it's very influential because Aaron, a lot of his, the musical things that he ended up doing in his life was inspired by Fantasia.
Yeah, it's true. And there were dinosaur specialists who were inspired by
Yeah.
the Stravinsky piece. I mean, they really
I
stick in
knew
your
what
head.
a violin was when I was like 3 years old.
Yeah, Aaron
Yeah.
started playing the violin because of Fantasia. At least that's what our parents said. It's because he watched it over and over and he kept asking for one until finally they were like, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It took another,
Violin, so
you know,
basic.
I had to double my lifespan before they actually got me a teacher, but, you know.
But they got you violin. How about you, Jonah? How's it hold up for you?
Oh, yeah. I probably liked it less now.
How many
I don't
Z's
know.
awards does it get?
It's 3 Z's because I fell asleep at 3 different points. I fell asleep in Ave Maria. Fell asleep in
Stravinsky,
and I fell asleep in
which is the dinosaur
Night.
one.
the
No,
dance
Oh, the Dance of the Hours.
Dance of the Hours.
the alligator hippo dance,
Dance of the Hours.
which is a funny one to fall asleep in.
That was a funny one to fall asleep in, and I was looking forward to it, and then I fell asleep.
Wow.
So
We really
it
struggled.
gets 3 Z's for me.
But I can still appreciate it. How about you, Aaron? How does it hold up?
Like, the main thing was, like, the quality of the sound wasn't there. So, like, a lot of the stuff that I remember as a kid being like, whoa, it just wasn't quite there. But I still enjoyed some of it. I was surprised by some of the parts. I was like, that's a weird choice. And, like, especially with, like, the centaurs and it was really scary that the Chernabog, the images on that.
Yeah.
Which as a kid, I'm just like, okay.
Okay, yeah, I guess this is fine because it's a cartoon and I'm watching it, so.
I mean, it's not as scary as the beginning when they start the Toccata and Fugue, but okay.
Yeah.
I thought it didn't hold up super well, but I still enjoyed it.
But you still have fond memories. And you still play the violin, so there's that too.
Yes, I still play the violin.
Awesome.
And I still like all of those pieces of music more today, probably, because I watched it back then.
That's true.
Like the Nutcracker.
I mean, one thing I would say is like there's some of these pieces of music that you're never gonna disconnect it from Fantasia. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like Nutcracker might be its own thing because it has its own story,
Yeah.
you know? But like Sorcerer's Apprentice, I'm never gonna hear Sorcerer's Apprentice and not think of Mickey Mouse. Yeah, I'm never gonna do it. It's always gonna be Mickey Mouse to me. And I think Night on Bald Mountain too. Every time I hear it, I'm gonna think of Chernadog. You know what I mean?
You know what they should do for the next Fantasia?
What?
They should do... Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name right now. Bum, 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 bum.
Oh gosh. Carmina Burana.
Carmina Burana. Yep. They should do Carmina Burana for the next one. Anyway,
It's a very dramatic piece of music.
You heard it here first.
if they do it,
Maybe we'll have to do a mini-sode where we say all the pieces of music we think should be in the next Fantasia.
Ooh.
That'd be fun, right?
Actually, you guys should just post.
Oh yeah, you guys should post.
You should post what songs you think should be in the next Fantasia.
Yeah, Fantasia 2020.
Also, any concepts that you also would like them to do for them?
Any cartoons?
I love that.
Send them. I'll share them. But I think that I do really like, there's a quote by Walt Disney to kind of sum it up here. As he said, perhaps Bach and Beethoven are strange bedfellows for Mickey Mouse, but it's all been a lot of fun. And I think that that's a really good quote for that. You know? It's just a good time. Well, I mean, some of it's a good time. We fall asleep through a lot of it, but it's a good idea. And they did it, and they had it.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk about for us.
For sure. We want to thank Erin, of course, for being our special Fantasia correspondent today. Erin just took a good bow. That was a good bow.
Oh, thank you,
I liked
Erin.
it. Yeah.
Appreciate that bow.
Yeah.
And so you know our thoughts, and we'd like to hear yours. Do you imagine Mickey Mouse dancing whenever you hear Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Or do you have a different story that comes to your mind?
Yeah.
Have you watched Fantasia recently? Did you stay awake? How many Z's do you give it?
Yeah, how many Z's do you give Fantasia? You can send us all of your Fantasia stories and theories, anecdotes at realrecollectionspodcast@gmail.com. That's real spelled REEL. Or you can post it on our Facebook page or our Twitter account.
Yep, we want to hear all of your stories and thoughts. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.